our average daily case to 137. It looks like moving back to tier one is going to be imminent. And I don't know if there's anything that anybody knows how, that they can do to prevent this. Um, as far as I know, like we drove around to get some food, uh, went looking around, driving around looking for fishing reels, uh, made the mistake of going to Ala Shopping Center, and that place was like packed. It was packed. Like, I mean, as far as cars, there it wasn't as crowded as previous years, but there was a lot of people there. So people are out and about, and I think that was one of the points that the mayor brought up in today's press conference while he was addressing the spike in cases. So, we kind of were hovering around 100 for, like a week or so. And then it started kind of going up, 150. I think we hit like 190 or something like that. And so we're over 200. And uh, I think he was very concerned, like we all are, about moving back to tier one instead of going to a less restrictive tier three. But as from what it looks like, I don't think that's going to happen. And part of it is the cluster at Halava Prison. So I think I got some clips of the news conference. Um, so a good portion of our cases are coming from that Halava cluster. But we're still seeing an increase, though, of cases in the community. But the vast majority are the cases in Halava. So later on, he makes the point about removing those inmates, and we talked about that before. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I still haven't, really decided whether or not I'm for or against it. But that's a big number, right? That's a big percentage of the cases coming from Halava. So that's the concern there, that it's a 2 week average. So what we see on the COVID dashboard is a 7 day average. But if we keep that up for 2 weeks, which is going to take us to the end of the year, then if we're still over 100, we're going to move back up to tier one, which is the more restrictive um, tier level. So there's several things. The first thing that I kind of have an issue with is I kind of appreciate the mayor coming out on a Sunday and and with every kind of bump up in cases, he's kind of held these press conferences, kind of like when the pandemic first uh, hit us. There was a lot of communication, right? There's a lot of transparency. There's a lot of press conferences by both the governor and the mayor about what the situation is, and it kind of makes us feel better, like, stuff is happening, or at least we know what's happening. The sad thing is, like, the last time I can recall seeing the governor was like a week ago. So throughout all of this bump in cases, we haven't heard anything. And like the mayor just said, a week and a half ago, he communicated to the governor's office like he wanted to do something about the case numbers, because it does affect, you know, the tier levels, and he hasn't gotten any kind of response. And that's like that's okay. And this is just my personal opinion. I don't, if people like, to me personally, Ige has shown like a complete lack of leadership here throughout his entire time as governor. There are times, and I'm not saying he's a bad governor. I'm just saying, like, in times when we needed the governor the most, uh, he did very poorly, and this is just another example of like what's going on. Like, is he waiting for somebody to tell him what to say, or kind of like the whole missile crisis where he was waiting for the feds to tell him uh, whether or not it was a mistake or not. And it's like, dude, you already knew it was a mistake. uh, the Halava prison, that's a state prison. So that's not under Caldwell's, right? The mayor's jurisdiction. That's under the governor's jurisdiction. So, like, he needs to at least say something like no or yes, right? Yes or no. At least give something. And then, if you want to talk about it, talk about it. But to not say anything and have it sit for a week, that's a pretty poor leader right there. Um, and I'm just talking about this situation. That's really not that acceptable, given the severity and the economic impact that it's going to have. So the other thing is, again, bringing up the whole taking the inmate numbers out. Uh, the mayor did talk about that before, when it was first brought up, when I think OCCC had their big outbreak, and he made a case why he should keep the number in with, you know, with the community number. And I think there's some issues with separating the inmate numbers out, and he talked about it during the press conference. But again, like the last, in my last report, we talked about this. Like, there's going to have to be like two different numbers, because when you talk about the state number, right, it should be inclusive of everybody in the state, including the inmates. But if you're talking about like the tier level, whether or not we're moving up or down the different tiers, then you would have a different count, right? And then so now you would have to track. Somebody would have to keep track of those numbers and distinguish between, the state count and the tier count. And I think that's where I think, again, there's obviously a lack of leadership. I don't think it can't be done. I mean, to me, it seems like a simple thing. You're already getting the numbers. We already know how many cases are coming from the prisons. Um, we know. I mean, it's not that difficult, right? To take the numbers out, and or to make uh, two different counts. So somebody's not making the call. Somebody, there's just not. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. There's no decision being made here, and then the rest of us, like the community, is wondering like, okay, well, what's going to happen? Like, are we? because this is, I mean, it's looking imminent, right? Like this is going to happen. We are going to move back up to tier one. So unless somebody says something or makes a decision, uh, we just have to go ahead and plan that we're moving back to tier one. So again, yeah, that's just to me, there's a lack of leadership going on, uh, from the state side. It looks like to me, we've heard stuff from Kauai's mayor, from Big Island, from Maui, and then we're hearing, from Honolulu. The mayors are doing all they can. They're making changes. They're adapting. Um, they're monitoring this. They're communicating to the people. But the state, we just have not heard. I mean, what happened to those press conferences with the Department of Health, right? Like, when was the last time we saw, like the daily updates from the Department of Health? I mean, we already know we're in a surge, so that's kind of, that's something that should be addressed, right? So anyway, that's my little 2 cents there. Yeah, so we talked about this before, right? Like, um, uh, and the mayor did also mention this, that there's a false sense of security with the vaccines. Um, that yeah, the vaccines are coming. Okay, uh, it's not going to hit all of us, right? Well, not all of us are going to get it. The people that do get it, they need to get 2 shots, right? 2 shots, and that's 3 weeks apart. So that's more than enough time for somebody to get 1 shot, get infected, and be infected by the second shot. And then, in the meanwhile, if they feel like the first shot made them immune, they're going to be, it's going to change their behavior, basically, is what he's saying. So the vaccine, so the vaccinations might be giving some people a false sense of security, like, oh, the numbers should be coming down. Um, if you did get the vaccine, oh, it's safe to go out. Well, like he's being told, and we know this, if you read the reports about the vaccine, about the vaccinations, that it prevents you from getting sick. That's pretty much it. It prevents you from getting sick. If you get the vaccination, it prevents you from getting sick. Uh, so you can still carry it and be infectious and still spread it, right? So unless everybody gets vaccinated all at the same time, because again, we don't even know how long the immunity lasts for. I mean, not that I've looked around, I can't find anywhere that says that it's going to last 6 months, 12 months, like forever. I don't know, right? So unless everybody gets it at the same time, that's impossible, right? Because there's millions of people that need to be vaccinated. There's no way they can do that, like in a month. Um, we ran the numbers, right? If like in the UK they did 130,000 in the first week, if they stay at that track, it's going to take them like 3 years, right? To vaccinate the 25 million people that they want to vaccinate. So for us, I think the first batch came in was like what, 4 or 5 thousand uh, vaccines. That's the first shot. So, I mean, I don't know how long it's going to take to vaccinate everybody, but you're still a carrier, right? So all of us who are down in like group 4, which is what I'm assuming I'm in group 4, I'm going to be like the last group of people who gets the shot. Uh, groups 1, 2, and 3, and we were running around thinking like, hey, they're safe, but I'm not safe, right? So the you know, behaviors are going to change, and that might lead to like an even bigger spread of the virus. Um, and that's his concern, right? His concern is people getting lax, like we're already getting kind of lax already. That's why we're seeing this bump in numbers. The holidays, people want to get together. Um, People are, like we're in tier two, so it's a little bit looser, and people are going about doing things, going shopping, going to craft fairs, going to the park, participating in activities, and they're not being safe. And what happens when a bunch of people get the vaccine? Uh, they're going to feel even safer, right? And then it can spread, faster that way. So the vaccine is it's a double-edged sword, right? It can help us, and at the same time, while it's helping us, it could also hurt us at the same time. So I looked at the clusters. This is from December 17th. So what is that? 3 days ago. Uh, 1,035 cases, and it's of course it's more now, right? Um, so that's just in the correctional facilities, right? 3 cases, educational. This is just in Honolulu, by the way. Restaurants, 25. That's a pretty decent number. Gyms, So, you know, athletic competition. I don't know about the mayor talked about going down to the park and seeing like people playing soccer. I thought athletic activities were open, but I guess they're not. But yet we still have like college activities. So again, like there's a lot of these mixed messages. There's a lot of exceptions, and I don't, the disease, like the virus doesn't care about these exceptions. So again, these mixed messages, a lot of people say, oh, like, oh, I see, football being played, basketball being played, uh, college levels. That means, we can do it. And I can't really blame them for that because of, there's an inconsistent message there. So the other island's not too bad, right? I mean, we're seeing bumps on Maui and the Big Island, but I mean, again, the numbers are pretty low. So, so this is in the U.S. and this is important. Like I feel that this is important because we still take travelers, right? So the darker the color, I think the more cases that's happening. Um, we know that California is having this huge surge right now. Uh, Cases in the last 7 days is 286,000. Uh, Texas is also having a big surge with 252,000 in the last 7 days. Like if we just look at the West Coast, which I don't know if that's where most of our travelers are coming from, which I assume it is. There's a lot of, there's still a lot of cases in a lot of these states, right? Like Washington has almost 23,000 in the last 7 days. Oregon has like 9,000. Nevada has 17, almost 18,000. Um, so there's a lot of cases. If you look at Hawaii, so in the last 7 days, we're reported to have like 830 cases. The only other place in the entire country that has less than us is Vermont with 717 cases. So we're by far like way below everybody else. Um, yeah, so that's kind of a neat thing to look at. Again, we talked about this, but now like the CDC has issued new guidance for the COVID vaccine with people with allergies. So I think in Alaska, there was like one nurse who had a severe reaction, and then we found out that there's like, I don't know, four more people that had severe reactions to the vaccine. So now they're saying that uh, if you have any kind of severe allergic reaction, um, that you shouldn't get the vaccine. And if you do get the vaccine and then you have an allergic reaction, chances are you're not going to get the second shot. So the Pfizer and the Moderna both are two-shot vaccinations. So you'll get the first shot. If you have a reaction, you're probably not going to get the second shot. Um, and and again, they say now they're going to monitor you for 15 minutes after getting the vaccine. So again, that's going to slow down the number of people that they can vaccinate per day, right? So again, like this vaccination process is not going to be a fast process just because of the sheer number of people that they need to vaccinate. So yeah, that's about it. Um, that's it for today's COVID report. Uh, I'm kind of concerned about it with the increase. If it was just like a spike, like a 1 day kind of spike, and it's not that big of a deal because again, the numbers are still pretty low. Like 200 is still kind of a low number. Um, but if it stays that high for a long period of time, then uh, then that's a bad thing, right? And really, like for me, it's more like I don't want to go back to tier one. So I don't know what people are gonna do. It's like it's the holidays and people are. I mean, man, Ala Moana Shopping Center was packed, and I don't know about Kahala Mall, Windward Mall, Pro Ridge, but Ala Moana was packed. There was a lot of people there, so a lot of people are out and about doing stuff. So you know, I don't expect the numbers to go down, but we'll see. Uh, keep my fingers crossed. And yeah, so that's it for today's update. Stay safe.